You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers and other important people from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. Well, this week we're going to continue our conversations with those individuals that have already declared that they're running for Congress in New York's hotly contested 3rd District, which is the seat currently held by George Santos. My guest today is Ms. Anna M. Kaplan, who is a declared candidate for the Democratic Party in the 2024 election in the 3rd District. Well, Ms. Kaplan, welcome to this week's Long Island News.
Thank you so much for having me in the studio today.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. And, we've done a couple of interviews with people and have always kind of made the point that, not that they would forget, but the seat that you're running for had its problems.
Yes.
And so
yes.
we always said, be very careful what you say because people are going to dig deep.
Of course.
And which is good. I mean, we should have been doing this all along.
That's right. That's right. So my name is Anna Kaplan. Bill, I am a political refugee. I came to this country at age 13 from Iran. I came with 39 other kids. And it took about 2 years till my parents were able to join me and my siblings and for us to unite and apply for political asylum and go through the process of getting a green card and, of course, then becoming citizens. Mm. And I have to tell you, if you had told me 12 years ago I would run for office, I would have told you, you are just crazy. Never thought about running for office, never entertained it. But I lived in Great Neck, and with my husband, we had our home in Great Neck. We raised our 2 daughters in Great Neck. And there was a need for someone to run for the library board in Great Neck. And it was a very difficult time in Great Neck itself for this office. And I didn't want to do it. But I was reminded that I always talk about how grateful I am to this country for opening its arms to me when I needed a home. Mm-hmm. And it gave me so many opportunities. And I'm grateful for that. And I thought, what better way to run for the Great Neck Library and to make a difference and give back to this country that has given me so much. Mm. So I ran, and it was a 4-year term. I served in that 4-year. While I was at it, I was asked to sit on the Zoning Board of Appeals for town of North Hempstead, which is the 5th largest town in the United States.
Yeah, right.
And there was a council seat where I lived that became open, and the councilwoman decided not to run and retire. I was asked to run for that seat. So I ran in 2011 for council seat for District 4 in town of North Hempstead. Mm-hmm. I won the seat, and I figured, you know what? I wanted to run because I wanted to make sure to bring awareness to a lot of my own fellow Iranian Americans that this is an opportunity for them to register, to vote, and make sure their voices are being heard.
Right.
And I served for 4 years, and I started doing some work, but in government, everything takes a little longer than in private.
The lumbering dinosaur. That is government. Yes.
But I was very happy to have started a couple of projects, and I wanted to see them through the end. I ran for re-election in 2015. It was a 4-year term. And in 2015, I won with 67%. I represented a very diverse area and was really happy to see that I made a difference, that people from all over the district came out and voted for me.
Right.
Now, fast forward to 2018, I remember it was right after Parkland shooting. Mm-hmm. And I got calls from some students from Great Neck High School who came, asked for an appointment, who came to my office, sat across the table from me. And they told me that they were scared of going to school and that they feared their school would be targeted next.
Right.
And they also told me they are making appointments to speak with all of their local electeds. they had reached out to the senator, New York State senator, and they asked for a meeting with her, and she refused to meet with them. It broke my heart to hear our young adults fearing for their lives when they're going to school. And it was right then and there that I decided I was going to run for New York State Senate. In 2018, I ran for New York State Senate. I remember in the beginning, it was very difficult. I would call people for support, whether it was financial or just boots on the ground, grassroots support. A lot of people thought there was no way I would win that seat. The first thing they would ask me who I was running against, and literally would hang up the phone on me. And I am so proud to say my campaign was a grassroots campaign and got a lot of people involved. I went everywhere and met with people where they were and listened to them. The grassroots campaign kept on growing, and a seat that nobody thought I could flip and win, I won with double digits. And in 2020, I ran again for my seat, and I won with 15 points. It's been an amazing experience and ride for me. I can't tell you it's been easy, but I can tell you it has been very, very fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, you're quite an example for, and not just Iranian immigrants, but all immigrants.
Yes.
To realize that they're, when you come to America, you're not just sitting in the observation section, in the bleacher seats.
Yes.
You can play in the game.
Yes.
If you got the wherewithal and and then the other thing that I think of is anybody being in government, every morning when you wake up and you think of the mountain you have to climb, whatever it is, to have the stamina to stay in that and to take the next step and just keep moving forward is daunting.
Yes. But I have to say, it's a testament to this wonderful country. How many people can say they fled their country of birth, have gone to another country, and have been elected to one of the highest offices?
Right.
Only in this country.
Yeah, yeah.
You can come here, work hard, and make every dream that you have a reality.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing when I think of specifically Iran, when I was growing up, I remember a different Iran than what we see now.
Yes.
And it bothers me a little bit that I guess people who are in their 20s and 30s don't know that Iran.
Yes.
Because it's an illustration for us of how fast a country can turn over.
Absolutely. How
quickly it can become something that you didn't even see on the horizon.
Absolutely. And how far right they've gone, and how women are being stripped of their rights every day.
Yeah.
And it is really important for all of us to take notice of that.
Yeah, yeah. That's a perfect illustration.
Yes.
Just to take it from, I wouldn't even know what years we're really, I guess the 70s.
79. That's when I actually witnessed Shah leaving. I witnessed Ayatollah Khomeini coming in. And it was a few months after that I had left Iran.
Wow. Wow. So you were right there during all the turmoil.
I have seen all of it firsthand at age 13.
Wow.
And
I want to read your book.
Thank you. Yeah. I have to tell you, I have been really blessed for the life that I've lived.
Well, and we've been blessed because we got you.
Thank you.
I mean,
thank you.
You're plugged in and you're doing it, which, even people born here aren't necessarily doing that much. But
so I believe right now we are in a very divided country, and it is really important for us not to stand on the sidelines and to do everything in our power. And everyone can do different things. You can run for office, you can help someone you believe in should be elected. There's different ways that you can contribute. And I hope that sometime very soon we can unite again in this country and really address the issues that really impact everyday life of all Americans throughout this country.
Well, now let's consider the seat that you're running for.
Yes.
Tell me, what's your opinion of George Santos? And And what happened there?
He's a liar. He's a disgrace representative. We are a laughingstock of not just our district, our state. I have family in England and in Israel and that know about him. And I cannot believe how someone like him has been elected to one of the highest offices here in the land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was an alarm bell that went off.
Yes.
When the people in this district realized who they had elected.
That's right. That's right.
And
I think it really does point out how we need to vet our own electeds and make sure they are who they are and who they say they are. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, right now, we are stuck with them. And who is hurting? It's the residents of District 3.
We seem to be
who don't have a representation.
We seem to be at a standstill.
That's right.
The Republican side of the House is saying, well, you have other representatives. You can, instead of calling George's office, call the other guy. And say, well, I didn't vote for the other guy.
That's right. He's not the representative from here.
Right.
So that's why I think it's really important to make sure that we unseat him at the ballot because he's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. He's happy with all of this.
And here's the other thing that we've I've spoken to a couple of lawmakers here, and we've realized collectively that there is no law in the books that when someone has exhibits this kind of behavior that they are expelled from. There's nothing written to say that he couldn't actually be elected a congressman and do his business from a jail cell.
That's right. I think we've never been in this country where we are right now. And that's why it is important to have those laws. Yeah. That if someone lies to that magnitude and runs for office, can be stripped of his rights of representing the district or the office that he's holding.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yes.
And this is the same thing as, they talk about in Congress, they talk about, well, we're going to get the Oversight Committee to come here and look at you. And in years past, that was a scary thing for a legislator. So, they'll be looking over my shoulder. Now, they've basically taken the teeth out of any oversight. So they can bluster and they can put out press releases and they can say we're doing this and doing that. But effectively, they really can't do anything.
They refuse to do.
That's by design.
Yes.
Right.
They had a chance to expel him, but we have seen repeatedly they refuse to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's about holding on to the power, not legislating for people.
Yes. And Congressman McCarthy has said that he's going to not expel him and he's going to wait for a report.
Right.
And we have no idea when this report is going to come due.
Yeah. Well, that's a knee-jerk, that's a famous reaction. Oh, we'll form a committee.
Yes.
Great. So in another 10 years, we'll hear what the committee thinks and still go no place.
That's why it's important for us to make sure we defeat him at the ballot box.
Yeah. Before we came on the air, we were talking about the SALT things, state and local taxes, which will be something when you're elected or, that will certainly be on the minds of most Long Islanders. That was Donald Trump's reaction to New York, not, I guess, voting enough for him.
Yes.
I think it's scheduled, 2025?
I believe so.
So then it would automatically revert?
I have to take a closer look at it and see. But it definitely was an assault on every New Yorker. Not just Long Islanders, but every New Yorker.
Yep.
New York has always been a giver state. We've helped all the other states when they needed help. We think of ourselves as 50 united states.
Right.
And it's important for us to do that and continue in that effort. But SALT was a definite attack on New York and some of the other blue states.
Yeah.
And what people need to understand that it is very expensive to live in New York. And we have high taxes.
Getting more expensive by the minute.
And it's getting more expensive. And we need to do something. We definitely have to reverse the SALT and make sure that it goes away. And we need to also work really hard to make sure that we are building a future where our children can still afford to stay here.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been the MO for a long time. You know, you make your money in New York and you spend it somewhere else.
Yes.
And speaking to someone last week or the week before, it seems to work for Long Island because it's been this way for 100 years. And no one has really attempted to change that. It's almost as though, okay, people retire, they should move to Florida, and then because now that price of the house that they lived in for the last 35 or 40 years
has gone up tremendously.
Bring the new money into Long Island.
Yes.
It's almost as though this is a method of operation, not...
But I don't think it's been very sustainable. And I think we are watching it every year becoming even more unsustainable. Mm-hmm. I have 2 daughters, and I would love for them to be here. And I would love for them to be able to buy a home and start their families. But as we see, yes, a lot of our young adults are making decent living if you take a look at it and compare it to other parts of this country. Mm-hmm. But the amount of expenses here, mm-hmm. buying a home, buying a car, and just maintaining a regular life has been exponentially more and higher mm-hmm. than anywhere else.
Yeah. And then the issue of, like your daughters, if they graduate from college, they'll have student loans.
That's
most likely.
Right. That's right.
And they're already 10 steps down.
That's right.
They're not starting at zero. The other thing is school taxes. There are people on Long Island living in houses who haven't had kids in school for over 50 years.
Yes.
Still paying exorbitant taxes. Newsday put out an article a few days ago or a few weeks ago about the idea that some of these school districts have $3 billion in reserves and are still screaming for higher taxes. Now, part of the MO of school districts, and I think it's common knowledge, when you get a budget in and now you've got the money, before the school year ends, you've got to spend it or you won't get more next year. And that mindset's got to go.
Well, I think it is important to definitely take a look. And by law, they're not supposed to have a big reserve. I also can see a little bit where we have a lot of public schools here. The buildings are very old.
Yes.
And they need to put in money and make sure that mm-hmm. they do everything in their power to keep the building safe and to also move in with the 21st century.
Right.
And that, of course, is very important.
Yeah.
I remember when I was running for New York State Senate in 2018, I visited one of the schools in my district, which was Westbury School. This was a school that's one of the 5 most harms in the entire state. Mm. And they never got really what they were owed.
Right.
They were neglected for many, many years. And I remember going and visiting one of the schools. The building was built for 1,100 students. Mm. And at the time I was visiting it, there were 1,650 students there.
Right.
They were making use out of the cafeteria and every room in the basement.
Right.
I really felt awful for those students, knowing full well that this is a place that they're supposed to come and use the facility in a manner that it was built for. Mm. And that it was not being maintained for the level of the number of students that they had.
Yeah.
I made a promise to do whatever I can to make sure that they were not neglected and that they got funds that they needed to expand and make sure that the facility was safe and operated in a manner that benefited every student in that building.
Yeah. I think people forget that. And, you know, when they talk about school taxes, people knee-jerk reaction is that the teachers make too much money. That's all they think about. And they don't think about what it costs to maintain a 50-year-old, in some cases, 60-year-old building.
Some cases, 100-year-old
Right. There
buildings.
You go. You know, and we're a perfect example. But
yes.
Just to remind you, you're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and my guest today is Anna M. Kaplan, a former New York State Senator who is now a declared candidate on the Democratic ticket in 2024 for New York's 3rd Congressional District, the seat currently held by George Santos. So at least, I mean, you live here. I guess the South Shore is a little different than the North Shore. The 3rd District would be mostly the South Shore. We've got the sandy beaches. You have the rocky beaches.
We have the North Shore of Long Island, and I have to tell you, I've been blessed to live here for over 30 years. I've reaped the benefits of our wonderful community, our libraries, our parks.
Right.
And my children have benefited.
I think one of the big problems is, and you hear it all the time, as soon as a building goes up, everybody, well, what are we, Queens? And certainly there's an unreasonable expectation that Long Island is going to stay the same way it's been, when you, or I don't mean you, I'm saying anyone at 60 years old expects it to be what it was when they were 15 and 20 and 25. I think we have to dispel that. It can't happen. Future is coming.
Yes.
And you can't get in its, you can certainly try to steer it where you want it to go.
That's right.
But it's coming.
That's right. I think standing still is not an option. That's almost like falling behind. Mm-hmm. We need to build for our future, for our children's future. But that building, whatever it may be, has to be also with the input of the communities. Mm-hmm. And for them to understand why we need to build and how we need to build in a smart way that is actually practical and beneficial to all of us.
Well, and one of the big issues, I've spoken with quite a few county executives since I've been in this position, reassessment. It seems as though no one's tackled it yet.
Well, there was an attempt to tackle it.
Yeah, there've been a few attempts,
and unfortunately,
and again, the optics, what it looks like. Is there no political will to actually come up with a plan, put it on the table, and fight with whoever doesn't like it, which we know is just the two-party division.
Yes,
says that's going to happen. So is it no political will, or does no one really have a plan? Is there a way to?
So I have to give credit to former county executive Laura Curran. I think she had a plan, and it was already started. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, she was not reelected, which I think was a shame because she had a plan and she stood up as hard as it was.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is important to make those difficult decisions and make people understand why those difficult decisions have to be made and follow through with them.
Well, with the advent of social media, we've kind of discovered that our fellow voter, when you take the average man, and I think George Carlin said this quite a few times, when you take the average guy, he's not the brightest crayon in the box, and he's the 50% level. And a lot of those voters are below that level. It's to try to instill them with an idea of what works in reassessment. I don't think they go that far. That's not a news headline. That's a whole story. They don't want to read a whole story.
It is difficult. It absolutely is difficult. But we have to have the will to do it. And we have to elect individuals who have a backbone who would want to do that. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we take an oath to the office that we represent. And we have to be able to do that in good conscience, representing everyone in the district.
We've been at a time in politics when I've actually asked the question, why do we bother taking oaths?
It is a shame that people don't take their oaths seriously.
And what's the recourse? Someone takes an oath and then doesn't.
That's right.
And again, political will.
Yes.
It's the same thing to say that we're a country of laws. In 2008, the bankers crashed this country.
Yes.
Actually, most of the world, and admitted criminal activity. They admitted that they did illegal things to get there. And not one of those people has stood in front of a judge. That's very disheartening for those of us who believe in the law. And
we have to believe in laws.
But it only seems to be exercised when it's inconsequential.
I agree with you that there has to be a better way of holding people accountable. But we are a country of law and order, and we need to take our laws seriously. If we don't have that, we have nothing.
Yeah. Well, they used to say, if you want to know if there's anarchy or not, get in your car at 3 o'clock in the morning and go for a ride. And if people are still stopping at red lights, you still have a society and you have laws. But to that end, people don't really stop at stop signs anymore, do they?
We have a lot of aggressive drivers.
It's almost as like you see a slow erosion of, they're not so important. It's like a stop sign is a suggestion now. It's not a...
Bill, I would like to hope that there's a lot more people who believe in the law and that they see a stop sign. They do stop. Should they be making a stronger stop?
Yeah.
That's a conversation we could have. But I really do hope that they believe in, in our laws.
We have a tiny bit of time. What would you want to say to them?
I would like every voter to really understand the magnitude of this year's election and next year's election. And I also understand that it's not just the right to go and vote. It's our duty. There are people throughout this world that don't have that. Yeah. We in America take that for granted. We need to go out and vote. And I know I am very proud of my record in New York State Senate. The 4 years that I was there, I've passed so many legislations. I can tell you 95% of them have been either unanimous or with big bipartisan support. We made changes to our voting rights to make it easier for every New Yorker to go out and exercise that right. Mm-hmm. And it is imperative for them to do so. It is important to make sure that everyone's voices are being heard.
Amen.
I believe right now in this country, we are fighting for women's rights. And I think it's imperative for us to have more women voices in Congress.
I think we simultaneously are fighting for democracy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I have to tell you, coming from a country that women were stripped of their rights, it really breaks my heart to say that my mother's generation had more rights in this country than my daughter's generation. And I would hope that everyone understands what's at stake and come out and vote. And I hope that they can see I am an elected who have fought for them. I have delivered results. I have a track record. And I will continue to do that. And I would be honored to represent this district in Congress and pass and codify Roe on a federal level. And pass sensible gun laws on a federal level. And make sure we ban ghost guns and keep our communities safe.
Well said. And if you haven't yet, you can Google Anna M. Kaplan, and you can see her record as a state senator and the other jobs that she's been in. But our time is up.
I invite everyone to go ahead and visit my website. It's anna4ny.com. Mm-hmm. Please join us in this endeavor. Together, we can defeat George Santos.
Well, my guest today has been Anna M. Kaplan, a former New York State senator who is now a declared candidate on the Democratic ticket in 2024 for New York's 3rd Congressional District. And again, we thank you for taking the time to be here to speak with us today. And definitely good luck next year in the election.
Thank you.
And we also have to make sure you'll come back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
But the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. I'm Bill McIntyre. And remember, you can listen to us by searching for this week's Long Island News wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're right here on the radio every Friday at 3 p.m. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.